as a result of other people's negligence for over 50 years here in South Florida. If you get injured as a result of somebody else's negligence, it can be a car accident, it can be a slip and fall, medical malpractice, negligent security. If somebody else's negligence caused an injury to either you or one of your loved ones, give us a call. Our phone number is on our page, our website is on our page, and our email addresses are on our page. Please give us a call for a free consultation. We'd love to help you. Let Zach and I protect your rights.
Hello, everybody.
Fish on First is live. What's up, everybody? Eli Sussman, Isaac Azut, along with me. What would you rather be doing on a Monday night in August, heading into a series between the two worst teams in the National League than talking about baseball? Well, apparently, other people on our staff had different things to do. So it is a two-man show, at least for the moment right here, presented as always by Berger and Hicks. Their information along the bottom right there. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Yes, please sound off throughout the show so we could get through the show. Probably will be a little bit less than an hour, but we'll see what we get to on here because lots to cover in recent Marlins news and upcoming Marlins news as well. Isaac, let's just hop right into it with the previous series against the Cubs, losing 2 out of 3, one of the biggest blowout losses of the season, right in the middle there. I told you ahead of time, I want to start with the end, the very end of it, in the 8th inning. A win already looking pretty likely. Not the highest leverage of moments, but nonetheless a pretty embarrassing sequence with your boy Jesus Sanchez making what is a pretty unique type of mistake right here, but at the same time not unique at all for those of us who have been following his career. A lapse in awareness. I think that's the most polite way to put it right here. Kind of forfeiting a base on what should have been an intentional walk because he did not physically go to first base before being replaced by a pinch runner. Can you walk us through what was going on with Sanchi right here? And I think the fair but harsh summation of his Marlins tenure, that a lot of these plays, these moments seem to find him due to whether it's a lack of concentration or just his mind is in a different place than it probably should be during these games.
Right. Well, I want to start off with, I'm sure everyone watching knows about the play, so we'll get into that in a little bit. But first, I just want to give credit to Skip Schumacher for backing up his player. He took all the blame. He said basically verbatim, if the player doesn't know the rules, that's on me. And I thought that was a really cool thing to see from a player first manager, obviously. So that was really nice. And regarding the play, there's a lot of examples like that when in the end of an inning, for example, let's say if the bases were loaded and it's a walk-off hit by pitch, the player still needs to touch first base, even though, the game is over, quote unquote. The player needs to touch first base. And in this case, he went out to first base after drawing a walk, an impressive plate appearance, I might add. And before he got to first base, he saw whoever was pinch running for him. I think it was Otto Lopez. Whoever came out of the dugout. And before he touched first base, he went back to the dugout and Otto Lopez took his lead at first. And the Cubs said, hey, wait a second. And because of that, because Sanchez, the player who drew the walk, did not touch first base, the runner was out. The pinch runner had to go back to the dugout as well, obviously. And it was just a really embarrassing free out that the Marlins gave the Cubs. I almost couldn't believe it. Once I saw I was watching the game on mute. And as soon as I saw that, I knew exactly what happened. I was like, oh my goodness. So I think if you're Sanchez, you've been playing baseball for a long time. But actually in Sanchez's case, he's not one of those guys that has been playing since he was 5-6 years old. He actually picked up baseball at a pretty late age, all things considered, from what I understand. So, it's not totally surprising that he may have made that little mental blunder there. But, if you're spring training, you've been in big league spring training for a long time, you cover all those things. I mean, although I'm not sure if you cover that in spring training. I'd be curious to see, Skip, if they've ever covered anything like that in spring training. But lo and behold, the Marlins at least came away with the win. That run did not end up costing them, or that free out, I should say, did not end up costing the Marlins. But still, just something I have never seen in a Major League Baseball field, a minor league baseball field, or a high school baseball field. I've never seen that happen.
And I saw this observation,
Yes.
this comment at the time, and I totally agree that that's what a first base coach is there for, to try to
Yes.
help you avoid those type of careless mistakes. So John Jay does have some sort of responsibility in
Yes.
that. You're supposed to put your players in positions to not make those type of unforced errors. Try to correct them in the moment, and that is a rare scenario where a first baseman, the game is moving, is briefly stopped, so you have a moment to actually impact the game that way, and it didn't happen. Shout out to Sanchi, though. He did hit a home run in the first inning, 16
Yes.
on the year for him. And, overall, it's been a decent season, all things considered, for him. And among the guys that are left on this roster, he still has a pretty important place right now with what's going on. On the other side of this, I was hoping that our intern Nate Karsmer was here to talk about Xavier Edwards going on the IL, because he's the biggest X stan that there is out there. A 10-day IL stint for X, a
Yeah.
mile back extensor soreness, what was originally called a lower back issue. And it doesn't seem like it's going to be a long-term thing. At the same time, he was a staple of this team every single day, batting leadoff and playing shortstop and getting every single game, it seemed like 2 hits and 1 stolen base. He'd been just unquestionably a great everyday player for this past month and a half, exceeding all of our expectations. Even if he does come back this season, it does leave this void at shortstop. And just bummer that somebody that was doing so well is missing any sort of reps that could be really valuable to him long term.
Yeah, the bummer is a perfect word for it. Eli Xavier Edwards has really surpassed all our expectations for him. He's still hitting 350. He was getting a lot better defensively at shortstop, and you saw him steal the base in the first inning. I think it was on Friday, and we sent it in the video in our group chat, and you see him grimace and hold his lower back, and
Yeah.
right away you see shit. That's the last thing you want to see, and yeah, I couldn't have chosen a player you'd want to miss time less than Xavier Edwards. So hopefully it will be a quick IL stint. Backs are always tricky. You see guys like Christian Yelich deal with it for years, for their entire career sometimes. So hopefully this is nothing like that. But we wish Xavier Edwards a speedy recovery. But on the flip side of that, we've gotten to see Connor Norby in the leadoff spot. So I'm sure we'll get into that next.
That's an excellent transition right there. Connor Norby, he impressed us that first series against the D-backs, hits in every single game. He was even better in the second series right here. Extra base hits in every game, home runs in the last 2. Overall, that 6-game span, I'm monitoring this, the Trevor Rogers versus Connor Norby competition when it comes to F-WAR for the Marlins this season. I think Norby is well on pace to have a bigger positive impact on this team in a month and a half at most than Trevor had the entire season up until when he was traded. It's been an instant impact and instant positive stuff. Sliding into the leadoff spot while X is out, even though he's not quite as prototypical a leadoff guy,
Right.
but it's working. It's working pretty well, and it's getting him the reps that he needs. He's playing third base all the while, a position that he's been pretty vocal about. He'd prefer not to play. He'd rather be a second baseman, but under these circumstances, at third, that is where he is yet again tonight for a 7th straight game. Just speak about, I guess, in particular, the home runs, because I think that was a big question about his game, is how much power is there for a guy that doesn't produce big exit velocities. And so far, he's had not just 2 home runs, but 1 to center that was well over
Yeah.
400 feet away. And then yesterday, hitting it all the way to the opposite field down the right field line. That has to be extremely encouraging, right?
Yeah, so I had very tempered expectations when he first got called up. You never really see Marlins offensive prospects come up and hit the ground running the way Norby has. He came up, like I said, very tempered expectations. And man, this guy just has quality at bat after quality at bat. I'm not even focused on the results right now. I just want to see if he looks comfortable out there facing some tough right-handed pitching. And he just looks like he's been here for a couple of years in the major leagues. So the quality of at bats has been phenomenal. Then you look at the results, a couple of extra base hits in that game against Arizona, and he really just phenomenal bats against the lefty, the veteran Eduardo Rodriguez, just staying back on pitches, knowing that they're trying to hit him outside, and he still pulled a changeup on the outer half of the plate, down the left field line. Impressive power for a guy of his size. And then this series, like you said, Eli, against the Cubs, straightaway center field in this ballpark. He almost hit one, I forget which day it was, to right center field, which is even more difficult in my opinion. I got caught at the wall. and then he did clear the wall in right field, which was very impressive as well. And it's just really nice to see him just put up these quality 8Bs. He's not striking out a ton. The only thing you're going to see is it's not draw walks. He's drawn one walk in his 6 games as a Marlin. Hopefully that will come. He didn't draw a single walk as an Oriole in his brief cup of coffee as well, but I'm sure that will come with more experience up here. But you really have to be really pleased with how well he's been swinging the bat. And I would go on to say that this is best case scenario. And it's for 6 games as a Marlin. I don't think Marlins fans could have hoped for anything more.
Not to disparage our buddy Arm Layden, but if people want to go back to one of our recent streams, right before Norby got called up, Arm was a little bit low on him on his Just Baseball list. And he very eloquently explains why he had those reservations. And I do want to remind people how many other players, for better or worse, they fool you with 1 week performances. I would really caution people not to change their perception of Norby quite yet. As encouraging as this has been, it takes a little longer for it to play out. We'll have a better idea about who he is a month from now compared to at the moment. A couple other things on this series. I know one thing in particular you wanted to touch on was that middle game Saturday, the 14-2 loss, and the pitchers that they used in here. Valente Belloso, his worst start as a big leaguer so far. He almost made it through 5 innings, but really labored to get there. Combination of the final line kind of says it all, where with those walks and those home runs, you're kind of lucky that it's only 6 runs. It could have been even worse. And then just walk us through the rest of the when we zoom out and we see the names on here, none of these guys. Well, I should correct myself. One of those guys on the opening day roster, but not as a pitcher, as a hitter, from Belloso to Brujan. Yeah, it's just hard to believe that for all the pitching depth they had in spring training, and then even at the start of the regular season, with how deep the bullpen was at times, it has come to this where you're just patching things together with guys that were totally off the radar just a few months ago.
Yeah, so with Andrew Nardi going to the IL, we've already touched on it a bit. Not one Marlins pitcher from that opening day roster has currently been on the whole team the whole year without either being traded or getting hurt. So what's the end result is that you have this. I don't miss many Marlins games. I like to pride myself in watching 99% of them. I slept through this one. I woke up, I look at the box score of the pitchers that they use. And now I showed you guys this in spring training. These pitchers, Valente Belloso, John McMillan, Emmanuel Ramirez, Brett DeGo, and Vidal Brujan, you'd say, what the heck happened? Just not easy to compete when those are the 6 guys. Regarding Belloso, we knew this was going to happen. We thought it was going to happen a long time ago in his defense. So the fact that he waited until start number 6 or 7, I want to say, to have his first real blow up is impressive. He will be making his next start, of course. I believe it'll be in Colorado in game 4 of this series.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you see those 5 guys and Vidal Brujan at the end, it's hard not to chuckle at that pitching box score, unfortunately.
And I guess we'll touch on a positive note from the final game of that pitching performance that I guess really exceeded expectations, having Adam Oller, his second start as a Marlin, almost go 6 strong innings, 5 2/3 in here, doing it as Louis Adio Weiss on our site explained in a really unique way, where he was just fastball. Rod Allen must have loved it. And you don't see that in this day and age, where guys are constantly looking for swings and misses and constantly looking for their secondary stuff. He earned himself at least one more time pass in this rotation at a time where they do not have really any solid alternative for that 5th rotation spot. He was the reason why they were leading from start to finish on Sunday.
Yeah, it was a really, really encouraging start. He's not a lot of sexy stuff coming out of his right arm, but Adam Oller, he relied on that fastball 72% of the time, maxing out at 95. He was basically a 2-pitch pitcher that day, with the slurve being his main secondary. He did throw in a couple of changeups as well, but yeah, it was just a whole bunch of low to mid 90 fastballs that they were being effective for him. He was commanding it well. And as Skip said, if he's in the strike zone, the stuff will play. The stuff is good enough for sure to get big league players out and to really shut down a Cubs team that is, they're playing for something and they're playing pretty well. It was really impressive to see Adam Oller pitch the way he did. And then you saw Cronin, Tinoco, Fauché follow him. It was really a nice way to end that Cubs series, because the first 2 were a little bit a little bit crust.
Yeah. We need to transition, of course, to the big story surrounding this series, the arrival of Mr. Marlin Jr., Griffin Conine, after 4+ years in this Marlins organization. Now a 27-year-old who was spending this whole year down in AAA. He I guess where do I even want to start this story? His limitations as a player have been pretty apparent, and coming down to just whether he can hit enough and whether he can make enough contact in order to survive against major league quality pitching when he's striking out as much as he does in the minors. In spring training, he turned some heads both in the organization and even on our staff. I know both Alex Carver and Kevin Barral, they're saying this is an improved player. And I think they were right. I think he is the best version of himself that we've seen so far, limiting his strikeouts a little bit. He's had multiple torrid hot streaks during the year. One of them came relatively early. And then this one, it's not totally random timing. This one comes on the heels of a 2-week stretch where he was hitting over 400 in AAA, and including, I think he had a 4 RBI game right before getting called up in particular, where there's enough power and I should say there might be enough power, enough walks, and enough value as a corner outfielder defensively to maybe scratch out some sort of major league role. And he's finally getting an opportunity to do that. Not in the lineup tonight. I want to just start with that angle of it because the Marlins themselves, they were out in front of promoting this last night. Like usually they wait until the pregame entering the I should say that they treated him like a top prospect, even though bluntly, we don't think of him as a top prospect the same way that Connor Norby was, but everybody was really hyped understandably about this promotion because of his connection to Jeff Conine and all that. They got really excited about it. And then he's not in the lineup tonight, even though they're facing a right-handed pitcher.
Right.
So that's, I guess that's saying that even if they want him to get opportunities, even if he's going to get opportunities, that ultimately Skip Schumacher is the one that's still putting together these lineups. And they're still, it's an interesting situation where there's just a little redundancy on this roster between him, between Kyle Stowers, between Jesus Sanchez, all these lefty swinging corner outfielders right here. What do you think his role is going to look like for however long he's up on this roster?
I was surprised to not see him in the lineup. I thought facing someone like Feldner was a pretty favorable matchup for Griffin Conine in his first big league game. But I'm looking at the lineup here, and he's obviously not going to play center field, even though he was taking reps out there in AAA this year. But he has not started a professional game in center field. And I guess at DH, you're not going to take Jonah Bright out of the lineup, and you're not going to. I guess you want to see maybe you can't say the word platoon, but maybe he and Stowers will flip flop once in a while against right-handed pitching. And you're obviously not taking Jesus Sanchez out of the lineup either. So I find it peculiar, the timing. I really don't see a role. It is, like you said, a little bit. He feels superfluous a little bit with Stowers and Sanchi, all their corner outfield left-handed power hitters in the same big league roster. But he will have a role. I think Christina De Nicola reported that he's not going to be starting every single day, but he will get spot starts. He will get pinch hitting opportunities. There you see him with quote unquote Mr. Marlin at Coors Field. It's going to be a big moment for him, big moment for the Marlins. But regarding his role, hopefully he gets a start in Colorado. I think he will. I'm not sure how many lefties the Rockies have lined up the rest of the way. Tomorrow it's Cal Quantrill, so there's another chance for him to be in the lineup. But it's going to be an exciting time whenever he does, because even though he's not a top, let's say, 20 prospect for us or for most outlets, he's a very intriguing guy with immense raw power, probably the most raw power in the system, just crushes minor leaguers and has for a very long time. He does get on base. His strikeout percentage is always going to be astronomical, but this year it's in right below 30%, which is the best of his minor league career. And he's got a WRC plus of 113 so far in AAA. So there is some reason to believe he could hit pretty decently out here. He is going to strike out, but there is some reason to be excited to see someone like Conine come up and see the last name Conine on a Marlins jersey. That's going to hit very well.
Yeah. So this is that moment today with his parents screaming him at Coors Field. It's it's a beautiful moment for somebody in Conine himself that he was never, honestly, his prospect pedigree, his hype coming up way back when he was in the late 80s and early 90s was even less than Griffin's was. And it was a huge upset and defying the odds that he turned into a guy that had almost 2,000 career hits and that had such a long career for him to beat those odds. And even his first couple of like tastes of the major leagues before the expansion draft, before coming to the Marlins when he was still with the Royals, like he got a little taste and didn't know if he was going to get an extended opportunity off of that. So that he can kind of relate for exactly where Griffin is right now, getting this opportunity. And even if the expectations aren't there, you try to prove people wrong. And he's somebody that this is a cool milestone in itself. But yeah, I think he's, as I think a lot of people can attest to, Conine's work ethic is off the charts. His obsession with baseball is right there. He is one of those guys that does eat, sleep, and breathe baseball and continues to put in the work to get to this point and to maximize whatever his career is going to be. So this is a little step in it. I would have to imagine he's going to be in that lineup tomorrow when they face yet another righty. But as I touched on, it's going to be a weird balancing act right now, as even with so little to play for, there's just other guys stacked on top of the same positions that also have reasons that we want to get them reps. I always thought that it was going to be an either or between him and Stowers. I thought if Stowers' slump continues to be really, really unbearable, that they just switch places and Stowers goes down to Jacksonville and Conine replaces him. I didn't see him as an Edwards replacement on the roster right here.
Right.
Yeah. So it's just interesting circumstances, but they had to get him up at some point if they wanted to learn anything from it. For people that aren't clear about his contractual status, like he was going to be a pending minor league free agent. He wasn't on the Marlins 40-man roster. He was just going to leave for nothing after the season if they didn't at least see what they had in him right here, right now. So this is something that Alex Carver in particular, he loves guys to get their shots, to just see what you have in them, especially in a season like this. And you can't do it for everybody. I should mention somebody like Troy Johnston, unfortunately, who has been such a great performer in the minor leagues. And as it turns out, he's injured at this time of year where maybe they're like running out of alternatives to bring up right here. But there's only so many spots like to use on these guys to see what you have in all these other young players at this stage of the season. But yeah, so we're getting a little taste of him. I should take this opportunity to refresh people on one of your bold predictions early this year, entering the 2024 season as part of Fish Unfiltered episode. I have it loaded up. It was regarding none other than Griffin Conine. So people, to refresh your memories, here it is.
I think that Griffin Conine hits his first major league home run in 2024. I think he hits his first big league home run.
You drank the Kool-Aid yesterday.
No, it had nothing to do with his spring training and zero to do with that. I do think he'll be given an opportunity at some point. The clock is ticking with him. We all know the concerns with him and the swing and miss. But you know what? If this team is not where they want to be in late September, in late August, early September, I think he could be one of those limited September call-ups. And when he gets up here, he's going to hit one out. So Griffin Conine will get on the board in his major league career in 2024. Wow, that's awesome. I got to put that on Twitter.
And you still stand by that? You must be liking your chances now, especially with him starting out in cores for a few games.
Absolutely. And just to refresh people's memory on how Griffin Conine ended up with the Marlins, he was actually drafted under David Sampson and Jeffrey Lurie in 2015 out of high school, I think it was, in the 31st round. They didn't expect him to sign. And then he was drafted by the Toronto Blue Jays in 2018 out of Duke University. And then a couple of years later in that 2020 season, Jonathan Villar was traded to Toronto in exchange for Griffin Conine. And that is how he became a Miami Marlin. The Marlins have said for a while that they've always liked this player. And here they are finally getting a chance to see him. And I do stand by that prediction. He will hit his first career home run. And I'll even double up. He will do it in Coors Field. It's just too perfect. He's going to do it. And I'm excited for him and his family. His dad is a really good guy. I've spoken with him for a long time last year, especially during the playoffs. And I'm sure he's excited.
Yeah, I didn't remember this from Sean Millerick about one of his bold predictions. Kind of by default, Trevor Rogers looks like he is on track to lead the team in innings pitched. Actually, you know what? That'll be something that goes down to the wire between him
where's
and
Cronin?
no, Cronin doesn't have that many. As a reliever, it's Rodri Munoz that is going to be his biggest challenger for that title if Munoz stays in the rotation the rest of the year. We'll revisit that one, Sean.
Does Belloso have no shot? No, right?
No. Belloso is only at, it feels like he's been around forever. He's only just not even 38 innings yet. It's only been 7 starts. Belloso, believe it or not. This is a perfect time, middle of the show, head into Flipped Fish, one of Isaac's favorite segments. He always encourages you to reply to his Flip Fish tweets before every series if you haven't already done so, to list your own player in here. But this is here on the live stream. I picked my own guy for this segment who played parts of their careers for both the Marlins and the opposing team. In this case, the Marlins and the Rockies right here. I picked one. You're probably going to get it. I'll say that. For most people, I believe this is above average difficulty. I had it at 6.5 out of 10 so far for this Marlins and Rockies player, a former catcher from the Dominican Republic, at this point, 46 years old. He was in the majors from 2002 to 2014. And you see his overall numbers right there. Didn't get on base very much, but still well above replacement level. Had some pop to him and played for both of these teams at some point during their careers. So in live chat, let us know who you think this mystery guy is. We'll do the reveal on the other side. We'll look a little bit more closely at the Rockies. We'll do even a little bit more on Conine, I think. And lead you up to first pitch of this first game of this road trip with just 1 month left in the regular season. You're on FOF Live. Stick with us.
We have been representing people injured as a result of other people's negligence for over 50 years here in South Florida. If you get injured as a result of somebody else's negligence, it can be a car accident, it can be a slip and fall, medical malpractice, negligent security. If somebody else's negligence caused an injury to either you or one of your loved ones, give us a call. Our phone number is on our page, our website is on our page, and our email addresses are on our page. Please give us a call for a free consultation. We'd love to help you. Let Zach and I protect your rights.
I guess it was a pretty easy one.
Yeah.
Sean got it, and LMF got it right here. It's Miguel Olivo, who I think he spent even a little bit longer with the Marlins than he did the Rockies. Not huge stints with either one.
Yeah, he had some physical altercation with a minor league teammate, didn't he?
Yeah, was it in the minors? I forget when it was. Either was either in the minors or may have been.
What?
Was it in the winter league that happens with that?
Oh yes, it was. He bit off Alex Guerrero's ear. Yes, that was it was in the minors with the Dodgers in AAA.
Yeah, interesting guy, interesting career that Miguel Olivo had right there. So yeah, I think only 10 more series left, maybe 9 more series left for me to make these flip fish picks. At this point, going through a lot of teams that the Marlins have already played. So it is, I'm digging pretty deep into my mental inventory to find guys that make sense for this and aren't too redundant right here.
Blue Jay series will be fun.
Yeah, I didn't want to waste this graphic on Conine just to help people visualize who he is as a player through this great data that we have on him from the AAA level so far this year. The gold is good and the blue is bad right here. And I think this pretty eloquently sums up what to expect, where it's just a good hitter overall, where he barrels the ball a lot. The exit velo is near the top of the scale, 115 max exit velo. That's right in Jake Berger territory, a tiny tick below Jesus Sanchez, still plus power by any way you define it. There's just a lot of strikeouts, and in particular, a lot of swing and miss, that 36% whiff rate. Just way too high. You would think to be successful if guys throwing pitches in the zone, because both in zone, that's the Z contact percentage, and the out of zone O contact percentage. It's just harder for him to put the bat on the ball than a lot of other guys. And so it's all about making it really, really count when he does connect with the ball.
Yeah, the Z contact percentage has got to be concerning when you're whiffing at pitches in the zone, especially against major league pitching where the stuff is just so much better, and the movement, even on fastball, the spin rates are going to be so much better. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough adjustment, but I think he's got I can't say a high floor because he does not have a high floor. The floor is that he never, it never works out for him at all here. But his hit it tool, he's got enough of something between his ears where I think he could carve out some sort of success, very limited success up here in the big leagues. And I hope he surprises us all. But there is reason to be pessimistic with good outcomes here.
Yeah. For people wondering about the uniform number, whether he would take his dad's numbers, one of his numbers, or something else, like what he was going to do with that, he went with, well, I believe he was assigned. I don't think he single-handedly picked number 56, but he's been assigned 56 for his rookie year. And we see this a lot where guys will, if they do stick around for a following year, they'll get to move down in the pecking order to move to a more desirable or sexy number. But for the moment, the first time he appears on the field, he'll be number 56. And I didn't want to waste this graphic either if I have it right here. When he does make his debut, the Marlins are going to set a franchise record for most total players used. It hasn't happened yet. This is saving the tweet and the IG post on this for when it's official, but he is on track to be number 62. The Marlins have 61 players so far. That's tied with the 2021 team and the 2020 team. But as soon as Conine takes the field, whether it's as a pinch hitter tonight or as a starter tomorrow, they will have made history right here. Just looking at this, Isaac, whose face is it that like jumps out to you? Somebody that you forgot about, or somebody that you don't actually recognize, even though they played from the team this year?
Well, first I have to point out the picture of Vladimir Gutierrez in his tuxedo that they did get one of him in a Marlins hat. I thought that was that's awesome. And Eli, I'm going to flip the question over to you. In 5 years from now, how many of these 62 guys do you think you'll be able to name? 62. How many? You can definitely name at least 30, like me. But how out of 62? And in the year 2029, how many will you for sure be able to name?
I think it'll be tough to get above 40.
Right.
I think I'll be proud of myself if I'm able to get 40 of them. Yeah,
Hoeing and Otto. That's Brett to go, I think. No, yes.
Yeah, this is in alphabetical order from left to right and then top to down by last names. So it starts with Sean Anderson in the top left.
Oh, that's who that
was. And then
was.
all the way in the bottom right, we have Ryan Weathers right there. I don't think I'm going to remember Forrest Wall. That's Forrest Wall right next to Ryan Weathers in the bottom right. And unfortunately, he was designated for assignment today. So, I played maybe 2 games with this team. That's one that I'd have no chance of grabbing. Yeah, a lot of these relievers too. I think
Who's the third guy? Matt Andriese?
Matt Andriese near the top. Yeah.
Okay.
For whatever reason, the background of the Arise headshot had a different color than everybody else, so that one pops off the page. But of course, I'm going to remember him as part of this equation right here.
The guy after Brazoban. Who is that?
Yeah, this is great ammo for Marlon Jeopardy in the future. After Brazoban, that's Jonah Bride next to Brazoban.
Oh, that's Bride?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like him without the glasses.
Yeah, but it's a mess. It's a total mess right here.
I can't believe this.
Yeah. Even who's the one that I'm having the most trouble with? I made the graphic and I keep blanking on who it is that's right on top of next to Hoeing in between Hoeing. That's Austin Kitchen. Austin Kitchen is the one who's with the Marlins right now, and I continue to forget that he was in the major league team for he only pitched in 1 game while he was up here so far. He's still on the 40 man. There's still a chance he comes up later in the year, but that's Kitchen in between Hoeing and Otto Lopez. So he's the one guy that I take the quiz right now, even after making it myself. And I think I'd go 61 for 62 because I keep blanking on Austin Kitchen, his contributions.
This is incredible. This is incredible.
So everybody getting a sneak peek of this before it's even officially accurate, but it should be accurate in a matter of hours, we think.
Yeah, and Conine's in good companies next to Jazz and Cronin. You take that.
Yeah. Let's hop into these injury updates really quickly from the beat reporter on the scene from Christina DiNicola, MLB.com. Another Sandy bullpen on this. I've lost count of how many he's thrown. He must be in double digits right now.
Oh, is it more than that? I thought it was maybe 9. or something. It was 7 a couple weeks ago. I don't know how often he's throwing.
It's atypical. I think even for guys coming back from Tommy John, if they're progressing that well and able to throw 2 bullpens a week every week for like a whole month, then usually the next step is to face batters. I guess the number is somewhat notable. 35 is slightly higher than his previous ones, which have mostly been, somewhere between 15 and 30, progressively working up right there. It looks like Anthony Bender is going to come back. I guess one thing to watch is this Josh Simpson situation. I've been watching his rehab outings, and he was a reliever we were kind of excited about in the system a couple of years ago. His strikeout numbers were off the charts, really nasty breaking ball, but his fastball velo and command has not returned yet compared to where it was before this elbow injury that he had. So they'll have to make a decision on him soon because his rehab window, I believe, is going to close by this weekend. So after he makes these back-to-back appearances, they decide whether to call him up or whether to keep him down in AAA and option him formally. But they're going to have him on they'll have him on the 40-man roster one way or another, we think. Both Braxton and Ryan Weathers, they seem to be neck and neck in terms of their progression from their different injuries, throwing multiple innings worth of bullpen pitches, and now Weathers graduating to do live BP later this week. So I guess that will be somewhat fulfilling for those guys if they remain on this track and they make 1 or 2 starts at the very end of the season. I think that helps with your mentality, right? To go in as a normal pitcher instead of heading into the off season still feeling like you're in rehab mode.
Absolutely. It's a huge, huge thing for these guys. That's why I was a little bit surprised that even if it were for 1 inning in a minor league rehab game or even a major league game, that, Craig sort of hinted that that will not be the case for Sandy. And when it comes for Weathers and Brax, absolutely. The value for those guys to go into the offseason, a fully healthy pitcher, knowing they've done it in the big leagues again and undergo a completely normal, healthy offseason program, whatever it is, vacation first, and then they go in their throwing program. It'd be huge for those 2 guys. Remember, they're still very young. Braxton Garrett is in his early 20s. So same with Ryan Weathers. So it would be immense for them to be able to get on a big league mound and pitch for them. Obviously, it doesn't really matter for the Marlins major league side of things, but just for them individually to go into spring training. And obviously, they're going to be huge assets for this team in spring and early part of next season, assuming they're not dealt. And if you want to go the other way and tinker with that, with them being dealt, maybe, then you're going to have to see them in big league action before the offseason. So It just makes all the sense in the world to not rush it, but it make all the sense in the world to try and get them up to pitch at least 1 or 2 major league outings before it's all said and done. And with Simpson, yeah, Eli, it's looked rough. I've been watching a lot of these games, and whenever Simpson's coming in, he just can't throw. He's not throwing strikes. He's not throwing particularly hard. He's given up. What is this? Let's see, 2, 4, 5 earned runs in his last 4 innings pitched. Yeah. It's been really tough to watch Simpson because, like you said, we were really excited about him. He was a top 30 prospect for us, I believe, the last couple of years. We thought that he and Nardi were going to make a nice duo, a left-handed duo in the back end of that Marlins bullpen. But unfortunately, Simpson has had some trouble. I still think he's going to be a pivotal part of this team going forward, especially in spring training. He's going to have all the time in the world to show what he's got. But it's been a really fugly rehab appearance, one after the other for Simpson.
Yeah. Regarding Sixto Sanchez, I think he's still going through the motions. I think that's the most generous way to put it. He's still rehabbing in some form. It does not look like we're going to see him back in the big leagues this year. I think realistically, once they have to make those decisions to bring guys back from the IL in the offseason, that Sixto's 40-man spot will be in jeopardy, serious jeopardy. So we may not. I would lean towards us not seeing Sixto ever pitch for the Marlins again. But we've been proven wrong before with what he did at the start of the year just to make the team out of spring training and all that. Yeah, the last thing on this that's not included in here is you had the Dane Myers update, baseball activities for Dane Myers. So it looks like he is going to, by the end of this year, he's eligible to come off the IL the final 2 weeks of the season. And we should, all things going according to plan between now and then, he should be ready to be reinstated and he'll get a chance to, kind of like those other guys, go into the offseason with more momentum on a high note after injuring himself, to be honest, a couple months ago and limiting his own opportunities right there.
Yep, Friday the 13th, like you said, is when he's eligible to be reinstated. And man, that's Skip has mentioned him really a couple of times as guys who, would be having this huge opportunity this last couple months of the season that unfortunately just not possible when he with the self-inflicted injury out of frustration. I said it before, I'll say it again. There's nothing that irks a front office, a team more than self-inflicted injuries like that, especially out of frustration. It's just really tough, especially for a young player that was going to have all the time of the world to show off in center field, to show off in right field, to hit at the top of the lineup for this team. I was a little bit disappointed, but he's going to have a couple of weeks at the end of it. It looks like he should be ready to come back once he's eligible to be reinstated. And I'm going to be really looking forward to seeing him hit big league pitching again. I would be curious to see how much rehab he's going to need, or if they're just going to let him rehab up here, maybe a couple games in Jupiter and maybe one in AAA, and then that's it. I assume it'll be a short one, I hope, given that it's an ankle. But we shall see.
Yeah. So let us wrap up with just a few more notes on here. I wanted to bring up the curious case of Jacob Stallings, who the Marlins are playing again right here. He's the primary catcher for a Major League Baseball team this season. He is we're almost done with this year. There's like a month left, and he has a 115 WRC plus at age 34. He's comfortably above replacement level after being sub-replacement level the last 2 years. The Marlins this year, aside from Nick Fortes, the rest of their catching situation has been a struggling half season of Christian Bethancourt, and now since then it's been just as poor production from Ali Sanchez. This is what makes baseball a funny game, where a guy can bounce back from having 2 lost years, even at this advanced stage for a catcher's career, and put up numbers like this. The Marlins, I guess they would have just been better off holding on to Stallings after all for that final year.
Yeah, well, hindsight is always 2020, as they say. But I remember the interview I had with him. I'm gonna shamelessly plug that one again on Twitter in a few minutes. But he was just mentioning how just a little bit of tinkering that the Rockies have done with his swing right away in April. He was hitting the cover off the ball, and I couldn't believe when I checked in on him the other day. It's been consistent for Mr. Jacob Stallings. He has not stopped hitting. He's still really good with his pitching, with his pitchers and catching them and framing and all of that. And he's really had a phenomenal year. An 800 OPS is just wow. After the 2 seasons he had with the Marlins, where he was averaging a mid 500 OPS, to him come out in Coors Field. And I'm not going to give Coors Field all the credit, because there's a lot of guys that go to Colorado and don't hit. Look at Elias Diaz. He was just designated for assignment. And yet Jacob Stallings is here holding the main catcher's job for this team. It's really good to see. There are a few guys in baseball that are as wonderful as he is on and off the field. So I'm glad to see him have some success. And he has all but earned himself another year at being their main catcher.
So let us hop into these lineups for the series opener right here, starting with the Rockies. I'm still kicking myself about Brenton Doyle. I picked him up in our FOF fantasy league early on off of either a late draft pick or off of waivers. And then I didn't believe that he was going to keep it up. I let him go, and he's bounced around. And in real life, he's continued to be their best player. He's having an awesome year. I don't know if he was an all-star or he was just an all-star caliber guy. Either way, like his second year in the big leagues, he was not an all-star selection, but he was playing at that level. Like the combination of power and base running on top of what he already had as a Gold Glove defender in his rookie year, he's, you could say, their most important player moving forward right here. And on the other side of the spectrum is last year's standout guy for them, Nolan Jones. He's hitting 7th tonight. He had a shocking breakout last season. He went 2020 in less than a full season. He was playing great defense in a corner outfield spot, and it looked like he was on the way up and being a pre-ARB eligible building block for them, and everything has totally come undone for him. Even now that he's getting a lot of reps, his power has just totally been zapped out of him. And I don't know how exactly that had happened right here. So some good, some bad, but overall, this is a team that they're in the same situation record wise as the Marlins. And it's the same. It kind of speaks for itself right here, where there are a few bright spots, but overall it's a rebuilding team. This is what a rebuilding team looks like.
Yeah, there's. I remember with McMahon, he had a crazy series against the Marlins last season, but with Nolan Jones, I thought that kid was just going to continue to hit. I don't remember if it was this year or last year where he had some nice ABs at Lone Depot Park as well. But yeah, I never know what the Rockies are doing, honestly. Whether it's them signing below average pitchers to extensions or putting weird guys in their lineup. I just never know what this team is up to. But it should be fun. Whenever the Marlins and the Rockies face off in Coors Field, it really is always something interesting happens. I'll always forget. I hope to forget that crazy comeback loss that Miami endured. That's the Florida Marlins a while ago. But
Yeah.
yeah, this is a lineup that Edward Cabrera should have an okay time facing. He's made a couple starts in Coors Field each of the last 2 years. One of them a lot better than the other. The good one being in 2022. Last year, 5 innings, 3 earned runs. The year before, 6 innings, 1 hit. He did walk 4, but he also struck out 9. One of his better career starts, to be fair. And so I hope to see more of that from Edward, knowing that he's gonna have to keep the ball on the ground. He's not gonna be able to give away free passes, and I expect a lot of strikeouts from Mr. Edward today.
Yeah. And the last thing I should mention is Ryan McMahon, who was having a
Yeah.
career year. I think he was their all-star rep. And ever since the break, he has fallen off a cliff. For a guy that is playing for the Rockies, playing home games at Coors Field, somehow hitting 144 since the all-star break. That's a big sample at this point. That's a month and a half where he's been one of the worst offensive players in baseball. Continues to hit in the middle of their lineup due to his track record, kind of understandably. That was a guy that looked like for other franchises that have a clear idea of what they're doing, he would have been a logical trade candidate. And instead, they hold on to him. His production goes down. And I guess for teams that it's just a fascinating difference in poor team building where the Rockies hold on to guys too long. The Marlins are
Yeah.
constantly flipping guys. And if you're too far to one extreme, then it usually doesn't work out too much. And so with the Rockies, they don't like to take those obvious opportunities to make deals. They have a lot of loyalty to their players, but sometimes to a fault.
Yeah, and another guy I want to mention, I want to touch on him is just because my high school team faced him many times was Brendan Rodgers, and I thought he was one of the safest draft picks in recent memory, and he's been a little bit better. He started off the year really slow, and he's had some really inconsistent spells from here and there with the Rockies. But since the All-Star break, he's OPSing 800. I think the Rockies did expect a little bit more from their what was it, number 2 overall pick, third overall pick in I forget which year, but yeah, he's someone that I've always been fond of. He's a crazy player, and I think he's going to be the guy that they extend one day.
Very quickly on the Marlins side of things. So Norby still hitting as the leadoff guy with X out of the equation right here. Yeah, it's actually pretty similar to what you'd expect in an X-less situation where it's Bruhan stepping in at shortstop. Derek Hill is the main center fielder until Dane gets back, and especially against, sometimes Pache gets starts against lefties. So we would think that they're kind of in a platoon situation in that spot moving forward. Yeah, but other than that, it's a pretty much status quo for this team. And with Sanchez, I don't think people need to be reminded, but he hit that gazillion foot home run at Coors Field last year,
494, I believe it was in 2022.
2022, 2 years ago. Yeah. So
Yeah.
he likes playing here. He in the same way that Conine is well suited to this, Sanchez even more so. So it could be a pretty big series for him right there. We'll just hop in lastly on the probable starters for this series. It is a 4-game series, 4 games subjected to this between these current non-competitive teams right here. So everybody in the Marlins rotation except for Adam Aller. And then on the Rockies side, yada yada yada. Did you want to talk about Kyle Freeland lastly? Because he had some really encouraging stretches of his career early on for this team. He got an extension from the Rockies once upon a
Right.
time. But what was the turning point, Isaac, for Kyle Freeland's career?
I hate to say it, and I'm not going to say that it was, but I mean, it's just you look at the pattern. A lot of guys after pitching in the WBC, they ended up struggling, and some of them have come back this year, but a lot of them have either gotten hurt, like Sandy. Look at Pablo Lopez at the year he's having this year. Look at Kyle Freeland. A lot of these starting pitchers, Martin Perez, a lot of these starting pitchers have struggled mightily. And I'm not going to blame it all on that tournament, but it is pretty interesting to see the amount of pitchers that have struggled, because I said this during the WBC when everyone was getting upset. You're going from throwing 2 innings in the backfields in early March to throwing in a World Series environment where you're expected to go 4 or 5 innings out of the gate. So it's hard to argue that it wasn't detrimental to every single one of these pitchers. Kyle Freeland, unfortunately, is one of the victims. He did pitch for Team USA in the 2023 World Baseball Classic, and since then, he's been one of the worst pitchers across Major League Baseball. And he wasn't exactly great before then, but he was good enough where the Rockies said, "Hey, let's extend you." It's because they need to extend any pitcher that they can get to stay in Coors Field, and he was one of them. He got 5 years, $64 million. He's signed through 2026 with a vesting option in 27, and he was really good in 2022. And then 2023 came, and it was just a lot of mid. An ERA over 5 this year. He's even worse, 5.7, negative WAR player. It is going to be interesting to see how he does against the Marlins. I would like to see the Marlins hit him well. I don't think you'll see Griffin Conine in that lineup. I don't think you'll see Kyle Stowers in that lineup. Maybe some Christian Pache. But I really think. Do you think that everything that I said would make teams worry about letting their pitchers pitch in the 2026 tournament?
As a refresher, it's not in the team's control unless those guys finish the previous year on the IL. That was the case with Jazz, if you remember, where Jazz wanted to do the WBC with Great Britain, and the Marlins, they said they mutually agreed to say no, but the Marlins didn't want him to come off an injury to end the year before. Other than that, it's, the players ultimately had the final say on this stuff. And after the excitement of the 2023 version, you'd think that there's going to be a lot of enthusiasm to participate again, unless if they are as superstitious or if they are as aware of this trend as you seem to be, then maybe you see a different approach right there. If they think statistically that they're more at risk of screwing up their careers because they're performing at an intense level at a time of year where they're usually not doing that, then you'll see a change right there. I think that'll be an interesting trend to follow leading up to the tournament, because
go ahead.
No, I was done.
Yeah, well, I mean, you just look at, there's a reason why a lot of these Justin Verlanders and Clayton Kershaws, a lot of the really good USA pitchers did not choose to pitch in this tournament. You see that, and I, for one, think it's very strange that teams don't have final say on what their quote unquote employees do. They are under team control. During spring training, they're required to be in spring training, yet they can go play in this tournament. I'm not sure why the players would have final say there. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that strange?
A little bit.
Yeah, I would say that's, it's very strange. I guess unless they end the season on the IL, you're also just as likely to get injured whether you ended the season on the IL or not. If Ryan Weathers comes back it's September 25th and makes a start, let's say if the tournament was this year, would he be allowed to go pitch? It would be in his choice. I don't know if that makes too much sense, but we can talk about that in the 2025 streams.
Yeah. And I want to put this up on the screen just so I don't forget it, about a very logical question about why the Rays used openers so much when they had an undermanned rotation, and why the Marlins themselves still go with conventional starters, despite the fact that they don't necessarily trust these guys to give them length and be effective. It's an interesting question that I hadn't really thought of to this point.
Yeah, and they do have some guys that would seem to make some sense to have that role, even like a Tinoco or a Cronin, or some guys that they don't use in the 8th and 9th. It'd be interesting, intriguing openers, I would say. So yeah, that is a good question. Maybe that's something to ask Skip.
Yeah. So without further ado, heading into first pitch, we need to go to our favorite segment, prediction time. Let's do it.
This is prediction time.
I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I'm really good at this.
None of the huge stars. I suppose you are actually the second ranked prognosticator among our staff so far this season, right behind Daniel Rodriguez. There are the updated leaderboards there with our staff, our super subs, and our stream guests as well, heading down the stretch of this regular season. 4-game series for those of you putting in predictions on our site. A lot of you already have right here. You know how these usually go. It usually split down the middle, unless there are unforeseen circumstances right here. But that's for people to decide so far. And got most of those predictions in. I'll just cue up the music right here. How many games the Marlins are going to win? Who's going to win Series MVP? The player could come from either team right here. Yeah, somebody by default is going to have to win these games, Isaac. So who do you think? How do you think this is going to play?
All right. Well, I think the starting pitching that Miami is going to run out there this series, they're going to have a tough time in this environment. So I think the Rockies actually take 3 out of 4. And I'm going to go, I think he's going to turn on right now, Ryan McMahon.
I have it as a series split down the middle, 2 wins apiece for both of these teams during this 4-game set to remain almost dead even in the heat for MLB draft position in 2025. Series MVP, this is going to be a popular one. Jake Berger to take advantage of the conditions here in Colorado. He has so much power that it's only going to be supercharged by these conditions. And I would expect him to be in the lineup every single day. So over the course of this series, I think he's going to drive in a whole lot of runs for the Marlins as they split it down the middle with Colorado.
I didn't hear the music.
You didn't hear it?
No.
I turned it on.
Okay, maybe that's just me.
Yeah, we'll check in the recording afterwards just to make sure that it went through the right way. Right here, one of the shortest prediction time videos that we've recorded this entire season. But we packed the hour full of insightful analysis and laughs for the great Griffin Conine Invitational, his first series as a major leaguer right here. So looking forward to seeing that and how the rest of this plays out. So Eli Sussman, Isaac Azut, Fish on First Live, another stream for the next series on Friday. We have a special podcast in between that I think we'll put out on Friday morning, assuming it gets recorded as scheduled. So people can look forward to that going up on YouTube and across all of our podcast distribution channels once we have that recorded the day before the upcoming stream. Looking forward to that as well. Thanks everybody for the support and for tuning in to us, regardless of whether you turn into the games themselves. We hope we bring you some entertainment and some insight. FOF Live, presented by Berger and Hicks. We'll talk to you again very soon. Go Fish.
Have a wonderful evening.